Dan's time at Augusta. We'll thank you, Dick. Probably start off just by getting Dan to give a bit of an overview of, Dan's time at Augusta. I guess he can break into his official working role there, and then he goes back each year still in a different capacity, which I'll let him get into. So maybe start off by what it was like working at Augusta.
Yeah, really interesting actually. So, just saying to Mr. Granger, there's only a few places in the world where you walk through the front gates and you really get a tingle in your spine, you know. For tennis people it's Wimbledon, for racing enthusiasts maybe it's the Melbourne Cup or the Derby or something, but for golf guys definitely Augusta. I worked there for 2 years full time as the assistant superintendent, 2005, 2007. And it's just literally, it's like nothing else. So it's a golf tournament, but realistically, they're very comfortable to say that it's the third biggest sporting event in the world, behind the Soccer World Cup and the Olympics. So it's an entertainment spectacle. TV is what makes that thing fly. The TV money is what makes kind of Augusta what it is and kind of those resources available. So it is all about the patron experience and also for the patrons that we have on TV. But it is like nothing else. It's very hard to describe. I did describe it earlier to someone as like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you know. You kind of open it up for 7 days of the year, let people in, they kind of read you the right act and don't dip your finger in the chocolate, and then they kind of shut it back down. But my time there for 2 years, I literally walked around with my jaw on the floor and my eyes really open wide as quite a naive young Australian guy working in the US market with more money than I've ever seen, and rubbing shoulders with people, you know, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, just walking past you all through you. So quite an interesting place, and I learned a lot about people too, that they're all putting their pants on one leg at a time, so that's always fun. And then from 2008 on, I've always gone back with the support of my club at Elanora and Augusta to be part of the pin setting committee. So whilst there, I was lucky enough to rebuild some greens for them with the help of their contractor. I also spent a fair bit of time working with their TV people while I was there. And TV angles for Augusta are very important. They don't like seeing a lot of things other than golf, so don't see a lot of rubbish bins, or trash cans as they call them. Don't see a lot of grandstands or observation stands as they call them. Don't see anything they don't want you to see. So we're on that subcommittee, and there's about 15 people that try to work out where the holes and markers go every day. Got a couple of state troopers keeping us safe and a couple of FBI agents that watch around us as well because we have all the pin sheets. But that is a really fun time, fun experience, and I look forward to it every year, so good times.
I was fortunate enough to, or a GMA Golf Managers Association conference that I was at about 4 years ago. The chairman at the time of Augusta was there, and I think they estimated the revenue per annum at $400 million. So I'm interested. You touched on rebuilding a green. What does a green rebuild look like at Augusta compared to another golf course?
I think it's a really interesting question. Someone asked me at the back to talk about this, so kind of talking about the heating and cooling and sub-airs and greens, but the greens are rebuilt. They rebuild 2 to 3 greens every year. It's quite an interesting story. The greens back in Augusta used to be Bermuda or Cooch greens, and you know when they were built they were much slower in speed than what they currently are now. I flipped over to bent grass in the 80s, and now with technology and people like Dom that are really good at their job, you can obviously get greens faster, so the slopes are much more severe, or the greens were built with much more slope for the Bermuda greens that are much slower in comparison to bent grass greens that you get much faster and they become unplayable very quickly. So one thing they do is they build 2 to 3 greens or rebuild greens every year, and they slightly reduce the severity of the slopes. Now for the average punter like myself or Dom, we would actually just move the pin into a more suitable area. But the problem is some people have been watching the Masters for 60 years and every Sunday their pins are in the exact same spot. So they can't move the pin, they've got to change the green. So how it's different than your average golf course, the construction is the same. But one thing they do is they do put heating and cooling under their greens. So if anyone's got the luxury of having it in their house or in their bathroom, it's very similar. I think there's two main styles. There's copper that you would run underneath your slab, and or there's tubing that you would run hot or cold water through. And at Greens at Augusta, they use the tubing and they run hot or cold water because it's a really humid place, and similar to this, it's hard to grow bent grass there in summer, so they cool down the entire profile of all of their greens. And in winter, if they need some recovery of pitch marks or old holes, they just heat them up and get a bit of growth on the grass. So got a fair bit of control over the growing medium, which makes the superintendent's job a little bit easier. Maybe end up with a bit more hair than what I have. The other thing they do is they've got a system in there called sub-air, which is basically like a vacuum. So if it rains, they go ahead and turn the sub-airs on. It's a system or like a vacuum that's hooked into the drainage system, and it basically dries the profile out, or it sucks air through, and with the air comes water. And you go from field capacity or dripping wet to firm, hard, wilting greens within about 20 to 24 hours. So the reason that you never see really, really soft, slow conditions in Augusta is because they've got a little bit of technology behind them.
Very interesting. You touched there in the context of the change of the grass and green speeds, and I know you have an opinion on stimping. I guess what's your view of stimping greens and in the context of maintaining green health?
This is a loaded gun. My opinion of a stimp meter. Okay, good. My opinion of a stimp meter is the further away from a golf course it can be, the better. I stimp the greens at Eleanor twice a year for our major events. It's just historical data. I'm not really that interested in the number, to be fair. My view on that is that if you prepare the putting green the same as the rest of your greens, you should go ahead and have a putt on the putting green. If you think it's fast or slow, that's what you're going to see on the golf course. Pretty simplistic version, but for people who are really interested in stimping and stimp meters and numbers, my question to those people, and again, this is a good one, make some friends or lose some friends, is what are you going to do if the greens are fast? You're going to change your face in your putter? Going to carry a different putter? The answer's probably no. Most people use the same equipment no matter whether they're fast or slow, so what does it matter if it's 10, 11 or 9? Doesn't really matter. Anyway, sorry to bore you on my stimp meter, but mine's in half. It's usually folded in half because I don't spend much time thinking about it.
Thank you. I need to make a room full of friends. It doesn't matter so much for you in this room. Augusta's closed for 6 months of the year. What does the course look like during that 6-month period?
Yeah, it's a really good point. The golf course is closed for 6 months of the year, and some people would question why that is. The origin of Augusta is that most people that, or the people that started Augusta were from the north of America, and they were snowbirds, so they were looking for something to do in the winter months. They built a club down in Georgia where it's really warm, and they played their golf in the winter months where they could still play golf. They weren't under snow. Why that's really interesting today is the golf course is actually open in the winter months, and they still do get frost and snow there. So the 6 months that it's open, there's probably within that, there's probably about 30 to 40 days where there's delays, where they can't get out and walk on the grass, because when there's frost on the grass, the ryegrass and the bent grass, you step on it, actually snaps the grass, and then it dies. So it's a really, really, really short season. If you go there in the summer, and they don't let many people there in the summer, but I've been there in the summer, you could not recognise it as a golf course. It is couch wall to wall, so same grass as a lot of clubs around here. Greens have grown up quite long. There's black plastic in all the bunkers to protect the sand, to keep it white. Lots of construction going on. They do no construction while the golf course is open for the members. So you will see between 200 and 400 contractors working in and around the property. And it is just a nightmare. But yeah, it would look like a suburban park rather than Augusta National. So one of the interesting things, if you ever do get behind the scenes, is the transformation from what it looks like in the summer to when they play at tournament day. Couldn't be any further apart in the world.
Thanks for that. I guess there's probably a lot of people. I think there is a few people in the room who have played Augusta. Is that right? Is there Murray? Murray, you played Augusta? So I don't think there'd be anyone else in the room who wouldn't want to play it. It's probably at the I mean, it's an impossible bucket list item to have. Dan, have you played the golf course? I know that the president's already asked you for a game, I think. Or if it's possible to get on. Have you had the opportunity to have a hit?
Murray, what was the score? Two at the 12th. Good score, take that any day of the week. 7 wood. You only had 2, it doesn't matter. That's right, yeah, well played. Interesting, I get asked this question quite a lot as I do during I get to play the golf course. In a management position there, you do have golfing rights, so you have golfing privileges, you can play. I was lucky enough to play quite a lot of golf at Augusta. I probably played between 20 and 30 rounds of golf there, and I will talk to you about my scores offline as well, Murray, because there's nothing great in there. But I do tell this story also is that 12th's a very iconic golf hole, and one of the jobs that is despised by most of the staff there is they actually remove all the flags out of the holes at the end of the day because people like to jump the fence and grab a souvenir. You know, security's pretty tight there now. There's motion sensors most places, and it's not as advised now as what it was back when I was working there. But I said, yeah, I'll do that job. I'm a single guy. I'm living in a 1-bedroom unit in Augusta, Georgia. My family's in Australia. Cool, I'll do that. I'll make some extra money. And the boss said to me, yeah, no problems at all. Just do whatever you want. Keep yourself busy. And I said, yeah, that sounds fine. That was a license to play a lot of golf shots and putt into some greens and just treat it like my personal golf club. So did it for probably about 6 months. At one point, I think I had about 30 or 40 shag bag balls that I would hit into the 12th every night. And then my boss kind of grabbed me one day and he said, just want to let you know a couple of things. I said, yeah, mate, go for it, you know. Working a lot of hours, picking up your flag sticks, a lot of good things. You should be really happy with me. He said, we've installed some security cameras. I said, oh, that's great, you know, what do I need to know? He said, you need to know you need to stop working on your game.
Danny's a very competent golfer for the record, played himself between 4 and 6 from memory, so I'm sure he's probably got you, Murray, but he's had a lot more practice there by the sounds of it. Trying to think if I have any more questions. Yes, so setting the pins. I guess a lot of people would have liked to have moved the greens here today, Dom, too, after the pin settings and some of the scores out there. Is that, you just set one pin position per day? Pretty straightforward stuff, I imagine?
It's quite an interesting process. And some of this I'll delve into and some I'll skate around because I still want to be invited back every year. It's quite interesting actually. It was always an invitational event, and the reason you don't really hear players come out and slander the golf course or say that something was wrong is because if they feel like someone's kind of a little hot under the collar, they just remind them that it's an invitational tournament. If you'd like to come back, I just want to keep that under your hat. So I'll keep a few things under my hat, but I will say they have huge amounts of data at the golf course, and they have for several years. I'm talking in the 90s. They introduced some technology called Shot Tracker or Shot Link, and they've basically taken every single shot that has ever been hit in tournament play and in practice rounds. They know where it was hit, they know the weather conditions and where it landed, where it bounced, and where it ran out to. They have unbelievable amounts of data on round numbers, round times, playing times, and scoring data. I think it's fair to say that Augusta has a number in mind that they would like to win their tournament. I don't think they want to see some of the historic records absolutely smashed apart. So when we are setting pins, we have got a lot of data, which makes some of our decision making easier. But it's not just let's go ahead, that looks like a good spot over here. They're looking at camera angles, they're looking at data, they're thinking about weather, they're thinking about where the scoring is, where it needs to be, what's going to make for exciting TV. There's a fair bit in it, and the more in it, the better, because I'm one of 15. I need to hold my job, right? So yeah, load it up.